Hello. I ran Castle Ravenloft today for the second time since Mod 16 came out, and so I thought it would be a great idea to compare what Castle Ravenloft is like now to what it was like in Mod 15. Basically, it's the same but different, because everything is the same but different. I did it on two different classes, playing two different roles, with two different groups filled with more than two different people. And it was kind of interesting to see how same but different it was. And I hope that you will also find it interesting to see the sameness and the differenceness. Okay, here we go. So we're just gonna skip straight to the first boss because let's be honest, the period of time from when you join to when you get to the first boss is like 1 minute, and there's nothing really notable that happens there ever, so there's no point in talking about it. But anyway, in Mod 17, the first boss is pretty much effortless, and the mechanics that would cause you to instantly die, well, there's two of them, and only one of them still causes you to instantly die for not paying attention, but the other one, the red chains, is not really deadly anymore. And let's be honest, the real reason for that is because people aren't doing millions of damage whenever they attack the boss anymore. So if they do accidentally hit the boss whenever they're chained, or someone is chained, they're only going to take like a few 100,000 damage, and generally most people have a few 100,000 hit points when they're in this dungeon, at least over 200k, and so they can absorb most of that most of the time. Also, speaking of the first boss, the little, whatchamacallits, the ghosties that pop up after you kill each sister before the next one comes out and you gotta kill it or you die, you know, that thing? They seem to have like no hit points, or at least no defense, because they die pretty much effortlessly. In Mod 15, you basically had to artifact your way, or mount power, anything to get the thing dead before you ran out of time. And sometimes it even happened in good groups, and everyone just looked around at each other confused, wanting to point fingers like, who was it? Who did it? Who made us die? And, yeah, but anyway, also, pause, stop. So here, in the Mod 17 version, right whenever the third sister is about to come out, what do you think happens? Do you think, A, the little ghosty spawns and gets instantly one-shot because they have like no HP now, or B, she doesn't come out at all and we just stand there and stare at her until we die and wipe and have to start over? Guess. Okay, so if you guessed B, she bugs out and doesn't let us attack her at all, you would be correct. We had to wipe and do the whole fight again because it broke. Which seems to be a common theme in the Mod 17 version of this dungeon. A lot of things are more broken than they used to be. Also, just watching the Mod 15 footage makes me extremely nostalgic for the Mod 15 Paladin, because the Mod 15 Paladin was just amazing, so fun, and so good, and I miss it so much. Let's be honest, the reason for this video is really just so that I could have another look at the Mod 15 Paladin and be nostalgic with everyone. The group that I had here doesn't seem to be a really standard one either. We had a warlock and only one cleric, if you remember, or maybe you don't, but at the time it was common to have two clerics, one of each paragon, to alternate and stack buffage and all that. And also, I'm sure you're noticing the numbers are ginormous, even for me as a paladin, so you can imagine what the numbers were like for the people who were actually DPS. And then, of course, there's the player portraits that I'm sure everyone misses. You know, on one hand, it makes the game look kinda older, but at the same time, it's kinda nice to see what everyone's wearing and know what people look like. I don't know. As we go into the ballroom, despite the fact that there's the annoying Strahd stuttering bug where he repeats the first syllable of every vocal line he has twice, it's pretty much the same, pretty effortless. I just sort of stood there and did nothing the whole time, which is not dissimilar to what I did in the Mod 15 version of this dungeon. I pretty much let the DPS do their thing and stood there. The second boss is more or less the same. It was really easy to one-phase him in Mod 17, even with the scaling and everything, but I'm not really surprised by that. In Mod 15, it was still possible to one-phase him, but it wasn't as easy as it is here. It also was more important for the tank to have aggro in Mod 15, I feel like, because here in this version our tank didn't have aggro pretty much the entire fight. One of our DPS did, and he survived pretty much fine, except for one instance where he almost died, but then we just, melted. We didn't have to do any of the spinny pillar nonsense. He was just dead, and we were not dead, and we didn't get flown around the room, knocked around the room. No one exploded, all that jazz. But it was a lot easier in Mod 17. So far, so good. We're following a common theme now. And yes, I know that the dungeon used to be harder in Mod 16 and 17, early Mod 17, and things have been changed a lot since initial Mod 16 release. I am aware of that, and I know it used to be a lot harder, but I'm going off of the way things are currently versus how they were before. Because, let's be honest, nobody really runs this dungeon right now anyway. Like I said, I've only ran this dungeon like twice since Mod 16 came out, and I used to run it all the time. And I don't mind it, honestly. It's not a bad dungeon. I enjoy it a lot. There's just nobody who wants to run it, and there's no real need to run it either, so we just don't, I guess. Probably the two main things that I miss from Paladin in Mod 15 are the extreme tankiness of the temp HP and Divine Call, which was your old tab power then, which would reduce the cooldowns of your encounter powers, which was super great, let me just say that. It was super nice. I really missed that. When I first tried out Mod 16 Paladin, that was the one thing that I missed the most. Now I don't really notice it at all because I'm used to the new one, but if I had this back, I still would just, I would love it. Same with the temp HP. It just felt so good to be able to attack at free will and not die ever. It was really nice. I mean, yes, I understand that was kind of overpowered, and I understand why they would remove something like that, but that doesn't make it any less disappointing, I guess, that you don't get to do that anymore. Just not even counting the larger circles that we had for Circle of Power and Cleric's Hallowed Ground and stuff, and then Paladin's Sanctuary as well. That was, I don't know why I liked Sanctuary so much. I do remember being so hype whenever the update came out where you could use Divine Call while still in Sanctuary, but I had to rebind my Steam shortcuts because it kept opening up the Steam tool window thing. And I just remember being so excited about that. I think that is in one of the first videos, well, not one of the first videos, one of the first videos I had that were semi-successful, I guess, on my channel. I did a Mod 15 Paladin update video, and I'm pretty sure that was in it. But anyway, on to going towards the third boss in the chapel or cathedral or whatever it's called. The bats part is slightly more difficult than it was in Mod 15, because in Mod 15 you could have like 8,000,000% bonus movement speed, and you could sprint more because you had the bonus movement speed, so you went further with your sprints and dashes and stuff, so no one really ever died in there or took damage. But now, with the lower amount of movement speed that we have, it's a lot more common to die in there, but it's not like you're going to, it's just easier to, I guess. Speaking of this, I just saw that I used a daily Divine Judgment, and Divine Judgment used to be an AoE, and it used to be a lot stronger because we did a lot more damage, and so you could just annihilate a group of enemies with it, and it was so much fun. Old Paladin was so much fun. I wonder how many times I'm going to say that in this video. I think I've only said it like twice so far, and I'll probably say it at least 2 more times. The next major difference is probably the Sun Sword, because the Sun Sword is not as good as it used to be. It doesn't one-shot everything. It comes close, but it's still not as high damage as it was before the Mod 16 update. Or I guess Mod 17. I don't know. I used it once, I picked it up, and it did pretty well. But, I was the healer, and so people were dying, and it was fun, I guess, but, But now, in Mod 17, I've heard that it's actually common to let the lowest DPS take the sword instead of the highest one, just because you don't do as much damage with it as you would just normally. But, like I said, this is the first time I've run this dungeon in months, so I don't have actual, factual basis for that, just what I have heard. So if I'm wrong or right, you can tell me about it in the comments. If any of you actually run Castle Ravenloft, actually a better idea, tell me when the last time you ran Castle Ravenloft was, and if you did it for any purpose other than just for fun. Because the only thing really worth getting out of it at this point is the Thirst artifact, but the Thirst artifact is only like 80k on the auction house right now, so it's not even really a huge piece of your wallet that you're spending on it. Anyway, on to the third boss. In Mod 15, you had to be pretty careful about where you were positioning yourself at certain points of the fight, because the red spots on the floor could kill you pretty easily if you didn't have any, defense buffs active, like the Circle of Power, Hallowed Ground, or Divine Glow at the time was a pretty good one. But if you stood in there, or if you got hit by one of the red X things, you would take a lot of damage and probably get close to dying if you weren't paying attention, or, actually die. And also, the bats, red arrows thing killed people a lot because they couldn't get to the candles fast enough and they would just kill everyone. All that fun stuff. But in Mod 17, it's really not a big deal. Like, I stood in the red zones quite a few times during the boss fight. I got hit by the X's like once or twice. We had the red arrows and the person who had them didn't instantly die. Like, it was just way easier, and it feels a lot different. It's certainly way more doable now than it used to be. Like, in the parts with the nightmares in particular, when I was running around, I got hit by the X's pretty often as my cleric, but as the Paladin, I had all that bonus movement speed and Radiant Slam and stuff to really get me out of the way. Plus, I could also just, shield if I needed to. But other than that, the really big difference between the two runs is the buff meta, which is obvious, or at least should be obvious, because that was pretty much what was the biggest thing that was changed in Mod 16, was removing that. And if you don't know, or if you forgot, buff meta being you use every single buff power that your party is capable of using, and then you kill it really fast, basically. So the person with the sword would use their artifact, their mount power, and then we would have the cleric using Divine Glow, Hallowed Ground, Exaltation, Break the Spirit, or Forge Master's Flame before they were both nerfed. Then you would have Paladin, Circle of Power, you would have Warlock, Pillar of Power, you would have, I'm trying to think if there's any other ones I'm missing. I'm sure there's a wizard one, but I don't play wizard, so I don't know. But yeah, it was a whole process building up to doing the big DPS, whereas now it's just sort of happens. Like, you get some bonuses, they're not constant. Oh yeah, also Cleric, Anointed Army. Duh, that was like one of the biggest things ever, the daily spam there. But yeah, like I said, now it's not so much of a build-up because you can't have the bonuses up 100% of the time. In Mod 15, it was possible to have a lot of the bonuses up 100% of the time for that extra bonus damage. So you just did insane amounts of DPS. But anyway, the runs themselves were basically the same length, approximately 30 minutes. The one in Mod 17 was longer, but then again, we also had to redo the boss fight, the first boss fight, once because it broke. So otherwise, I think it would have been like slightly shorter, just with how quickly we tore through the second and third bosses. But some of that time was made up by the longer amount of time it took for us to walk between areas, because, movement speed actually makes a huge difference, believe it or not. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you today. If you enjoyed this video, please give me your thumb to add to my thumb collection. And I have one other option for this type of video that I can do, because I have a recording of Cradle from Mod 15 as well that I could do to compare to the Mod 17 version. And I had a Mod 16 one as well, but I don't know where it went. I might have gotten rid of it. Thank you guys for watching or listening or whatever you decided to do to the video, and I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving if you celebrate that, and I hope you guys did not get trampled in the stores on Black Friday, which was today at the time of recording this, but sometime in the past whenever you're seeing it, because if you got trampled, that would suck, and it would probably hurt, so yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna leave now, so I will see you guys later. Okay, bye.